From the moment we take our first breath, something ancient begins to follow us. A rhythm, a shadow, a memory of where we came from and where we are going. Across the African continent, long before colonial disruption and religious conquest, there existed a powerful understanding of life, death, and what comes after. To many African spiritual systems, death is not a punishment. It is not a place of fear. It is a return, a passage, a movement from one realm to another in a cosmic cycle that never truly ends. Who are the gods who guide this sacred journey? Who watches over the newborn soul and carries it to its destiny? Who opens the gates between the living and the dead? Who guards the ancestral realms? In the West, we are taught of heaven and hell, of judgment and finality. But in the African worldview, there is no ending, only transition. There is no exile, only return. The African vision of existence is circular, not linear. Life is a sacred loop, from spirit to body, from body to ancestor, from ancestor back to spirit. This perspective doesn't seek salvation from life, it seeks harmony within it. And the deities of Africa are not far off judges. They are present forces. They walk with the wind, speak through dreams, and appear in the silence between thunder and breath. This is the story of the gods of life, death, and the afterlife in Africa. Of deities who don't demand blind worship but invite alignment with truth, destiny, and cosmic law. They are not just mythological figures, they are spiritual technologies, timeless forces, and sacred maps back to who we are. And through them, we begin to remember, not to just where we are going, but where we've always belonged. In African spirituality, life does not begin at birth. It begins in the spirit realm. Before a soul enters the world, its destiny is already whispered among the ancestors, etched into cosmic memory, and breathed into being by the divine. Life is not random. It is chosen, designed, crafted in alignment with forces both seen and unseen. And across the vast spiritual systems of Africa, this sacred beginning is guided by powerful deities who oversee birth, purpose, and the journey of becoming. In Yoruba cosmology, the supreme being Olodumare is the architect of life, but it is not Olodumare alone who shapes the destiny of each soul. That role belongs to the Ori, the inner head, the personal divinity, the spiritual double. Before descending to earth, the soul kneels before Olodumare and chooses its Ori, its path, its mission. Your Ori is your guide, your judge, your divine compass. To follow your Ori is to walk in harmony with your purpose. To reject it is to suffer disalignment, confusion, and spiritual crisis. Ifa, the divinatory system of the Yoruba, supports this alignment. Through consultations with a Babalawo, one can uncover the messages of their destiny, the obstacles in their path, and the rituals required to maintain balance. Life is seen as a dialogue, a constant exchange between human action and divine intention. Nothing is without meaning. Every challenge is a message. Every gift is a responsibility. Among the Dogon of Mali, creation begins with Ama, the supreme creator, who gave birth to the cosmos through order, vibration, and sacred geometry. Each soul, each person, carries the vibration of their origin. The Dogon believe that before one is born, their soul exists in the normal realm, where beings of knowledge and balance guide spiritual preparation. Life then is a return, a descent from a cosmic home to fulfill a spiritual purpose on earth. In Igbo belief, the concept of Chi echoes this sacred design. Chi is one's personal spirit, one's divine twin, bestowed by Chukwu, the supreme spirit. Your Chi is not separate from you. It is your essence in spirit form. It walks with you, guides your decisions, and holds the memory of your destiny. To honor your Chi is to live with integrity. To betray it is to fragment the self. Akan cosmology also holds that souls choose their destiny before birth. The Suprema bosom breathes life into the spirit and guides it to the womb through the forces of Nsamanfo, ancestors, and the Sunsum spiritual personality. Naming ceremonies among the Akan are not mere cultural practices. They are acts of spiritual affirmation. A child's name reflects their soul's journey, the day they were born, and the forces that walk with them. Across all these systems, birth is sacred, but not just because it is the beginning of life. It is sacred because it marks the return of the eternal. The child is not just a body. It is a spirit, a message, a renewal of lineage and cosmic law. Community plays a vital role in supporting that journey. The elders watch for signs. The diviners read the patterns. The mothers sing songs that echo in both realms. To be born in African spirituality is to arrive with a mission. A mission rooted in balance, contribution, and memory. Life is not a test. It is an initiation. And the gods who preside over birth and destiny do not demand obedience. They call for awareness, for listening, for honoring the sacred design already woven within us. These deities, Olodumare, Ama, Chukwu, the Abosom, do not operate through fear or distance. They exist as a presence, as rhythm, as law. They remind us that life is not something that happens to us. It is something we were born to shape, to protect, and to live with reverence. In many African spiritual traditions, the realms of the living and the spirit are not divided by walls, they are separated by thresholds. And between those thresholds stand the gatekeepers, powerful, mysterious, and often misunderstood deities who control access between dimensions. These are not just spirits who open doors. They are guardians of balance, messengers of the divine, and intermediaries who walk in both light and shadow. They are the ones who hold the keys to the other world, and nothing passes between realms without their permission. Among the Yoruba, this gatekeeper is Esu. Often vilified and mischaracterized by colonial narratives as a devil figure, Esu is far from malevolent. He is one of the most revered Orisha, the messenger of the gods, the lord of language and interpretation. He stands at the crossroads, literal and symbolic, and decides which messages reach the divine and which ones return unanswered. No offering, no ritual, no prayer is complete without Esu. Without his blessing, the spiritual circuit is broken. He is the trickster, yes, but not for chaos, rather for clarity. Esu bends reality to show what is hidden. He tests your motives, he reveals the consequences of your intentions. In truth, Esu is the divine mirror. He shows you who you are when you think no one is watching. In the Fon tradition of Dahomey, a similar role is held by Legba. Like Esu, Legba is the opener of spiritual gates, the keeper of divine language, and the first spirit invoked in any ritual. He is sometimes portrayed as an old man hunched over a staff, sometimes as a bright-eyed child. He contains opposites, innocence and wisdom, silence and speech. Legba teaches that the divine cannot be accessed through arrogance or manipulation. It must be approached with reverence and humility. When you speak to Legba, you are not just speaking to a god, you are speaking to the entire universe's willingness to listen. The Bakongo people of Central Africa offer a different but equally profound vision of this gateway, the Kalunga line. This is not a personified deity but a sacred boundary that divides the world of the living, Nseke, from the world of the ancestors, Mpemba. The Kalunga is often imagined as a river, a threshold of water and spirit. It is crossed at death, but also in dreams, trances, and deep ritual states. Those who traverse the Kalunga without preparation may be lost. Those who cross it with guidance return transformed. Spirits guard this threshold not to keep people out but to ensure the integrity of both realms.
Crossing the Kalunga is not simply about passage, it is about readiness. In all of these traditions, the gatekeeper is more than a door opener. They are judges of vibration. They respond not to words but to frequency. They don't care what you say. You could speak the most sacred names and still be denied. What matters is the state of your heart, the clarity of your intention, the alignment of your soul. You cannot lie to Esu. You cannot trick Legba. You cannot fake your way across the Kalunga line. These spirits see the unseen. They hear the silence beneath your voice. They know when you are playing and when you are truly seeking. Gatekeepers also teach us something modern society often forgets: that access to spiritual power requires a responsibility. In a world obsessed with shortcuts and manifestations, Esu and his counterparts demand integrity. They are not impressed by urgency. They want honesty. And when they block your path, it is not to harm. It is to protect the sacred from the unready. Yet these spirits are also generous. When honored correctly, they open infinite roads. They deliver messages faster than thought. They remove obstacles, reveal insights, and usher you into deeper levels of truth. The relationship with a gatekeeper is a sacred pact. You respect their role and they guide your steps. These deities are reminders that in the African spiritual worldview, there is no casual access to the divine. Every threshold matters. Every word counts. The spirit world is not a playground. It is a realm of purpose, alignment, and consequence. To walk between the worlds is to be reborn again and again, not in body, but in awareness. The gatekeepers stand watch, not to block you, but to bless the moment when you're finally ready to cross.
She arrives like a storm, sometimes quietly, sometimes with a roar that splits the sky open. Her name is Oya, and she does not knock gently when it's time for transformation. She is the goddess of winds, storms, change, death, and rebirth in the Yoruba spiritual tradition. But to call her merely a goddess of destruction is to miss the sacred complexity of her power. Oya is not chaos. She is the necessary force that clears the old to make way for the new. She governs the crossroads of existence, the moment between endings and beginnings, the breath between death and return, the silence before the storm, and the clarity that follows it. Oya is the guardian of the cemetery gates, the one who walks beside Iku, the personification of death. Yet she is not death itself. She is transition. She does not take life. She guides it through its most turbulent thresholds. When someone dies, it is Oya who carries the soul across. When someone must let go of a part of their life, their identity, their past, it is Oya's wind that blows through, tearing down what no longer serves, even when it hurts. Her presence is often misunderstood, feared even, because she brings the kind of change that cannot be negotiated. But her purpose is never cruelty, it is clarity. She removes illusions. She dismantles stagnation. She invites growth. In Yoruba cosmology, Oya is also the goddess of the Niger River, one of the lifelines of West Africa. This connects her to water, fertility, and flow, balancing her storm-like qualities with the nurturing force of feminine rebirth. She is the lightning and the rain, the force of destruction and the promise of renewal. It is said that she commands the winds not only in the sky, but in the soul. Emotional upheaval, spiritual awakening, unexpected turns of fate, these are her fingerprints. Where she moves, stagnation cannot survive. Oya is a warrior. She wears the colors of fire and smoke, burgundy, purple, rust. She fights not just external enemies, but the lies we tell ourselves. She is invoked in rituals of cleansing and liberation. When someone needs to sever ties with the past, cut through spiritual blockages, or summon the courage to step into a new phase of life, it is Oya who is called. She's also a fierce protector of women and a patron of the marketplace, where commerce, negotiation, and the exchange of energy take place. She understands movement, not only in weather, but in society, in spirit, and in destiny. In stories passed down through generations, Oya is not passive. She charges into battle alongside Sango, the god of thunder, wielding a machete and wielding the winds. She does not wait to be rescued. She rescues herself. She chooses power, and she grants it to those who honor her. But she demands authenticity. You cannot approach Oya with half-truths or hidden agendas. She will strip them away. She does not comfort you in your illusions. She frees you from them. And in doing so, she makes space for the self you are always meant to become. To work with Oya is to invite transformation. It is to say yes to the unknown, to trust the process even when the sky darkens and the wind howls. Her devotees do not seek stability, they seek truth. And in that truth, they find liberation. Oya teaches that all things must end for something new to begin. That death is not a failure, it is a passage. That storms do not destroy, they clear the way. In a world terrified of change, Oya stands as a sacred reminder. You cannot become who you are without shedding who you were. Her winds may frighten you, but they will never lie. Her storms may shake your foundations, but they will never leave you hollow. What they leave behind is space. Space to rise, space to heal, space to live again. Oya is not the end. She is the turning point. She is the breath before rebirth, the storm before transformation, the force that reminds us all that we are meant to evolve, not once, but again and again. Death, in many African spiritual systems, is not a destination. It is a doorway. It is not a sentence. It is a passage. While many cultures view death as the grim end of existence, African traditions speak of it with nuance, depth, and reverence. It is not feared, but respected. It is not erased from daily life, but honored. In these belief systems, death is a transformation, a shedding of skin, a return to the source, a migration of the soul. And standing at the threshold of that migration are divine guardians. These are the gods of death, not destroyers, but ushers. They do not punish, they guide. They do not end, they transition. In Yoruba cosmology, death is personified as Iku. Iku is not an evil force. Iku does not come uninvited. Iku comes only when destiny has been fulfilled, when the Ori, the inner divinity that guides a person's life, has reached the end of its journey. Even then, Iku does not act alone. The Orisha, ancestors, and divine time all participate in the orchestration of death. Iku is the force that detaches the spirit from the physical shell and begins the journey back to the ancestral realm. People speak of Iku with a mixture of caution and respect, not out of terror, but because death is sacred. It is the boundary between what is seen and unseen. And Iku's presence is a reminder that everything in life moves in rhythm, and even that which appears to end is part of a larger continuation. Among the Igbo people, death also takes on a deeply spiritual role. The entity Ogbunabali is the night spirit of death, powerful, mysterious, and feared. But again, not as a cruel executioner, rather as a cosmic enforcer. Ogbunabali walks at night, moving through the veil between worlds, often claiming those whose time has come or whose lives have violated the moral and spiritual order. Ogbunabali is not random. His presence signals justice and completion. In traditional beliefs, he may be called upon in matters of serious spiritual imbalance or ancestral reckoning. While he inspires fear, that fear is reverent. He is a reminder that our actions have echoes, and the spirit world is always listening. The Congo people offer a more geographic vision of death through the concept of the Kalunga line.
a mystical boundary between the living, Nseke, and the dead, Mpemba. It is imagined as a vast river, a body of water that reflects both realms. The living walk on one shore, the ancestors dwell on the other. The Kalunga is both literal and symbolic. In burial rituals, the dead are often oriented toward the west, the direction of the setting sun, the threshold of the Kalunga. Spirits who traverse this line become Bakulu, ancestral beings who guide and protect the living. But crossing the Kalunga is not simply about departing life. It is about initiation into eternity. The journey is watched over by powerful spirits, and only those properly prepared may pass peacefully. In the spiritual science of Kemet, death is an intricate ceremony filled with divine order and cosmic symbolism. Two of the most iconic deities associated with this process are Anubis and Osiris. Anubis, the jackal-headed god, is the patron of mummification and the guide of souls. It is Anubis who leads the deceased into the hall of judgment. There, the soul stands before Osiris, the god of death, resurrection, and eternal life. Osiris is not a figure of finality, but of renewal. He himself was killed and resurrected, becoming the model for all souls who wish to transcend death. The central ritual of Kemetic afterlife belief is the weighing of the heart. The heart of the deceased is placed on a scale and weighed against the feather of Mahat, the goddess of truth and balance. If the heart is light, the soul passes into the realm of the blessed. If heavy with wrongdoing, it is devoured by Amit, a fearsome composite creature. But even in this, the goal is not eternal damnation. It is purification, restoration of balance. Osiris rules over a realm not of punishment, but of rebirth, a sacred mirror of the physical world, governed by divine law. Across all these cultures, death is not treated casually. It is marked with ritual, storytelling, song, and silence. Funerals are not just farewells, they are ceremonies of guidance. Prayers are spoken to ease the journey. Libations are poured to honor those who have crossed. The dead are not forgotten. They are reintegrated into the fabric of the living. Ancestors are not merely remembered. They are active forces in daily life. And the gods who guard the passage between realms ensure that death remains sacred, not feared. A moment of reckoning, not ruination. These gods, Iku, Ogbunabali, Anubis, Osiris, and the forces of the Kalunga, teach that to die is not to disappear. It is to evolve. It is to take one's place in the great chain of memory, influence, and cosmic rhythm. They remind us that what we do in this life shapes how we are received in the next. That death does not end the story, it deepens it. And that we are not alone in that moment. We are met, we are guided, we are carried. In the African spiritual imagination, the afterlife is not a final stop. It is a return, a continuation, a cycle in which the soul journeys through realms both known and mysterious. Unlike Western religious narratives that divide existence into two binary destinations, heaven for the saved, hell for the damned, African cosmologies paint a far more dynamic and integrative vision of what comes after death. The afterlife is not just about reward or punishment. It is about harmony, memory, and movement. It is a space where ancestors live on, where souls are evaluated not by doctrine, but by alignment, and where life is not escaped, but expanded. In ancient Kemet, the soul's journey after death was meticulous, guided by divine order and cosmic law. The central symbol of this passage is the weighing of the heart. In the Hall of Ma'at, the heart of the deceased is placed on a scale and weighed against the feather of Ma'at, the principle of truth, balance, and justice. This was not simply a moral test but a spiritual calibration. If the heart was heavy with falsehood, betrayal, or imbalance, it was devoured by Amit. But if it was light, the soul was permitted to pass into the field of reeds, a realm of peace, prosperity, and divine communion. Importantly, this process was not ruled by a jealous god nor fueled by fear. It was a cosmic mechanism designed to maintain harmony between the worlds. Ma'at, both a goddess and a law, governed this realm. She stood not as a punisher, but as a standard, a frequency of truth that each soul was measured against. The Kemetic afterlife was not about belief systems. It was about spiritual integrity. One's deeds, thoughts, and words were all etched into the fabric of the soul. And the goal was not perfection, but balance. A heart in Ma'at meant a life lived in tune with the order of the universe. It meant justice had been done, kindness extended, courage chosen, and harmony honored. Among the Igbo people, the afterlife is anchored in the concept of Alamu, the spiritual homeland of the ancestors. When a person dies, their spirit does not vanish. It returns to the ancestral realm where it continues to watch over, guide, and influence the living. Ancestors are not passive spirits. They are active moral forces. They serve as intermediaries between the world of humans and the divine. They are invoked in times of crisis, consulted through divination, and honored in rituals. But only those who lived honorably, who died a good death, are welcomed into the realm of Alamu. Those who died in shame, betrayal, or without completing certain rites may linger as restless spirits, requiring appeasement or spiritual resolution. This ancestral realm is not exclusive. It is earned through integrity, social responsibility, and spiritual alignment. In Dogon cosmology, the soul's journey after death is part of a larger cosmic cycle. The Dogon believe in a multidimensional existence where souls are born, die, return, and transform. They hold that the essence of a person, called the Niyama, can return through reincarnation to continue fulfilling spiritual and ancestral duties. But reincarnation is not automatic. It requires a readiness, alignment, and often a spiritual agreement among the ancestors. The Dogon see existence as layered and eternal, with the soul moving between visible and invisible worlds, constantly growing, learning, and rebalancing. The Akan people of Ghana also embrace a model of spiritual return. They believe the soul, or Kwara, comes from the Supreme Abosom and returns after death to that divine source. But before it does, the Kwara may reincarnate within the family or community lineage. A newborn child may carry the spiritual essence of a departed ancestor, recognized through signs, dreams, or the child's characteristics. This belief reinforces the continuity between generations. It tells us that death is not separation, it is circulation. That we are never truly gone, we are always becoming again. This vision of afterlife as eternal cycle, as ancestral return, as moral echo, contrasts sharply with the Western dichotomy of salvation and damnation. In much of the Christian, Islamic, and secular Western frameworks, the soul is judged based on belief, adherence to dogma, or divine grace. The afterlife is static, either bliss or torment forever. In African thought, the afterlife is a living process. It is about relationship, memory, and resonance. It is not locked. It flows. It responds to how one lived, how one is remembered, how one continues to influence. African systems also emphasize collective morality over individual salvation. What matters is not just whether you were good, but whether you upheld community values, honored your ancestors, fulfilled your destiny, and contributed to harmony. Ancestors are not only revered, they are morally active. They bless the righteous, challenge the forgetful, and guide the lost. They do not simply sit on thrones. They whisper in dreams, walk in footprints, and rise in children. The African afterlife is a reminder that life does not belong to us alone. It belongs to a web of beings, visible and invisible, past and future. We live not only for ourselves, but for those who came before and those who will come after. Death, then, is not an escape from a responsibility. It is an evolution of it. To understand African views on the afterlife is to confront our fear of endings and realize that nothing truly ends. All things transform. The gods of the earth may guide us through the doorway, but it is the ancestors who greet us and the eternal cycles that carry us forward. This is not just spiritual belief. It is ancestral memory, encoded in the blood and breath of every living being. In a world fractured by disconnection between people, between nature, between soul and spirit, the ancient African deities of life, death, and the afterlife offer more than mythology. They offer medicine. These divine beings were never meant to be distant gods locked away in temples or texts. They were and are living forces, embedded in the earth, the air, and the breath of every human being. In a time where modern life has reduced spirituality to dogma, fear, or commodified mindfulness, these deities return as a reminder that the sacred is not something we seek outside ourselves. It is something we must remember within. The gods of birth and destiny teach us that we came here with purpose, that our lives are not accidents, nor is our suffering meaningless. They remind us that alignment is more important than achievement, and that destiny is not about status, it's about truth. When we listen to our Ori, consult our Chi, honor our Sunsum, we step back into harmony. These concepts are not ancient relics. They are systems of power and guidance in a world that often leaves us feeling powerless and lost. The gatekeepers of the spirit world, Ezu, Legba, and the Kalunga forces remind us that access to spiritual depth requires honesty. In a culture that chases shortcuts, these deities demand authenticity. They are here to guide us, not to flatter us. They challenge the performative and reward the sincere. They stand at the doors between realities, showing us that transformation is always possible, but never cheap. The gods of death and the afterlife offer something even more radical: peace. In a culture obsessed with avoiding death, these deities teach that death is not a failure. It's a transition. The ancestors are not gone. They are active. The soul is not judged by fear, but by balance. And in that balance lies our freedom. To remember these deities is to reclaim the wholeness of the human experience. Birth, life, death, afterlife, all sacred, all necessary, all divine. These deities matter because we are not just living through history. We are living through forgetting. And they are the memory calling us back, not to the past, but to ourselves.
The journey of life, death, and beyond is not a straight line. It is a sacred cycle. In the ancient wisdom of Africa, nothing is wasted. Nothing is meaningless. Every moment, from the first breath to the final whisper, is part of something bigger. These deities of destiny, of transformation, of transition and return were not invented to control us. They emerged to guide us, to help us remember what the modern world makes so easy to forget: that we are divine, that we are connected, and that we are never truly alone. To walk with these gods is not about conversion. It is about awakening. It is about seeing life not as chaos, but as choreography. Recognizing that birth is sacred, that death is a door, that ancestors walk with us, and that we carry within our spirit the map of our own becoming. When we understand the roles of Olodumare, Ama, Chukwu, Oya, Esu, Osiris, and all the others, we begin to see ourselves not as broken beings trying to be fixed, but as eternal souls learning how to return to rhythm. This cycle of emergence, transformation, and return belongs to all of us. Whether we were raised in these traditions or are only now discovering them, their wisdom speaks to something ancient in our bones, something deeper than memory, something that never needed to be taught, only remembered. The gods are not lost. The ancestors are not silent. The sacred is not dead. It is waiting, always, for us to recognize it again. If this made you remember something you didn't know you knew, comment below. If it stirred something ancient in your heart, something wild, something true, like this video. And if you want to keep exploring the stories, the gods, the truths that history tried to bury, subscribe to History Store, where memory becomes medicine and forgotten wisdom becomes power again. Thank you for walking this path. Thank you for listening not just with your ears, but with your spirit. May your Ori guide you. May your ancestors walk with you. And may you always remember, death is not the end. It is the next beginning.